ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्.
The topic has been given to you as the science and practice of Vedanta and how to turn attention inwards. Before I start talking about the system of thought which is called Vedanta, I would like to draw your attention to the word science, science and practice. We are supposed to be living in an age which is called the age of science. We need to understand and go into this word, the implication of this word, science. As far as I can understand, human beings from the beginning of time have been curious about the world they live in, about themselves. We have always been asking why, what, how, where, which is what science is about, trying to understand. So was there ever an age when human beings did not try to understand? So in what way is this age more of a scientific age than the other ages? It seems to me that the only difference is that today, out of all the human experience, we have selected human experience connected to the physical world, which we can see, touch, feel, measure, and turn our attention almost totally to this physical world and get our answers from it through the process of gathering data, experimenting, trying to come to some understanding, and we call that science today. So should it be said that the rest of the human experience is not scientific at all? Should we say that out of all the experiences that human beings are capable of, it's only the experience of the physical world which is scientific and the rest is unscientific? What exactly would it imply to say that when I look at the world, I am a scientist? If I can measure it, I am a scientist. And if I do not look at the physical world, if I pay more attention to my emotions, let us say, then I am being unscientific. Would you like to say that? Would it make greater sense to us to believe that in the same mind, that's human mind, there is a part which is scientific, functions scientifically, and there is a part which does not function scientifically? So, are we in some way divided basically? Is there a basic division within human understanding which has to be segregated into scientific and unscientific? So in today's world, where it seems that the emphasis has shifted to the physical reality, because it can be seen, it can be touched, it can be measured, it has a language which is supposed to be very precise, the language of mathematics, and the scientists, so-called scientists, human beings, who pay full attention to this part of human experience, have made it sound so important that most of us are pressurized into thinking that the rest of our experience is somehow not really normal. Or should we say, because they say it is not so scientific, it cannot be measured, it is so private, it's so subjective, that you can take it for granted that it is in some ways not really real. And if most of my experience, when I'm not looking at this world, not touching it, not measuring it, if it is supposed to be unreal, then how do I live my life at all? Has something happened to us in this age trying to be scientific? Is there some symptom that shows that we have been paying too much attention to the so-called physical reality, which the scientist puts forward as the main aspect of human experience, as being very accurate and as being not at all subjective? I can go to a laboratory and conduct the same experiment that you can conduct, and therefore somehow it becomes universally more accurate than my private experience, which to me seemed to be very real, but then the others cannot duplicate it. I cannot go to a laboratory and think about my emotion, measure it, though we are trying to do that in the science of psychology today, but I cannot measure my thoughts. I cannot measure the value that my thoughts give. They can be accurate, they can be inaccurate. I can have superstitions, I can have opinions. So what about this inner life? Is my inner life, just because it cannot be measured in mathematical language, going to become more and more unscientific? And is this what is happening to the human mind today in the blaze of modern age, scientific age? That more and more of the inner person is becoming less and less valid, and more the physical reality, which comes to me in my experience, has taken over to such an extent that we are all under this tremendous pressure of saying that the measurable is real, and the real has to be measurable, has to be visible, and if it is invisible, then it cannot be called real at all. So this is a very big problem of this age, which is called the age of science. And the symptoms are already there. We are all under tremendous pressure to somehow become more and more scientific in our thinking. What is thinking? Thinking is something that's very near to each one of us, but thinking is invisible. What about my emotions? Emotions are very near to me, very real to me, but they cannot be measured. Then what about my opinions? They mean a lot to me, but they don't mean the same to other people, so they cannot be measured. They are also unreal. Then what about my memories, which make my personality real to me, but the memories also do not seem to make any sense in any laboratory to anybody else? So should we say that the inner person is becoming less and less real because it is more and more invisible, and therefore it cannot be measured? So in this age of science, I am becoming the inner person, which is so well known to myself, is becoming less and less valid, and the outer, which is the body, my body, seems to have become very valid, and everything in this world today is somehow meant for the body. Nothing seems to be meant for the mind. And if it is meant for the mind, it comes in such a strange way that instead of giving me more and more peace and happiness, my life is becoming more and more tense and full of anxieties which cannot be measured again. Just as my inner life cannot be measured, the anxiety of the inner life also seems to have become more and more immeasurable. So I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that instead of taking the whole of human experience and paying attention to it, in this age, in that alone it can be called scientific age, in this age we are paying more and more attention to maybe 1/3 of human experience which relates to the physical world outside each one of us, because it seems to be universal. Because it is universal, because I can put it under a microscope and look at it, then I can have formulae about it, and I can measure it. Therefore, we are told that is real and the rest is unreal. But the idea is to understand what does the inner person want. I, as a human being, as the body, of course, I am related to the world outside, and therefore many of my wants and desires are fulfilled by this physical world outside. But can I be exhausted by the physical dimension? Is it possible for me to say that the inner person, which has all kinds of strange desires, all kinds of fears, all kinds of opinions, all kinds of emotions, is not at all real? And if I take this advice seriously, if I try to live up to this philosophy seriously, then what happens? What happens is that I am always in a state of contradiction. I look at myself from inside and know myself to be something invisible. Other people look at my body and give their opinion about that, and I'm trying to live up to the opinions of other people forever and ever without being able to solve or resolve this contradiction which rises in everyone's mind. Am I as other people see me, or am I something more than that? And if I am something more than that, it's not measurable. It cannot be measured. So I am unscientific. And if I am unscientific, what does it really imply? If I am unscientific, does it give me less validity? Does it make me less real? And I believe that most of the anxieties of modern age arise from this basic contradiction, that there is nothing in the so-called scientific age which applies to the inner man. Now, which of the thoughts of the world were meant for this inner person? We all know that for thousands of years, human beings have been trying to put religious philosophy into practice from the very beginning. We have been given some philosophies of faith. We have been told that the search of every human being is for happiness, is for immortality. We want something to become permanent. We want the inner life to become fulfilled. We want peace, we want happiness, we want God. What is this God? God is a unit which seems to imply all that the human heart wants. So for thousands of years, we were given a philosophy, a system of thought. It was usually religious in nature. What is religious? What is the meaning of being religious in nature? We were supposed to take it on faith. Someone has realized the innermost depth of humanity, and that someone stands on top of this philosophy. He says, take it on my authority, that I have discovered the innermost depth, and I give it to you. You take it on faith, and then try and live according to this, try and practice it, and you will also one day reach the same inner sense of fulfillment. Now, whether these people, these sages and these incarnations of God and these thinkers, whether they themselves say that you have to have faith and belief, or whether it is the interpreters of these people who force it on us to say that we, the priests, or we, the interpreters of the lives of these great people, give you certain ideas which you have to put in practice, and therefore you cannot come directly to this highest realization. You have to go through somebody, some medium. Either the medium is the priest, or the medium is the temple, or the medium is anyone in between. Now, this seems to have made the so-called scientific thinkers say that here there cannot be anything scientific, because the appeal is to faith. You have to believe. Believe, and therefore you can only use your capacity to think up to a very limited extent, and beyond that, when you come to reason, you cannot reason about these things, because belief and reason do not go together at all. So we are told that in the West, in the Christian countries, in the Middle Ages, there was a tremendous rebellion, tremendous revolt by the thinkers who said that if you take things on belief, they cannot be measured, they cannot be proved right or wrong. Therefore, all religious thinking is outmoded. All religious thinking which appeals to faith in man has to be outmoded. We have to have a new kind of a thinking, a new kind of a person, a new kind of a laboratory, new chemicals, so that we can have accurate knowledge about human experience. The only thing is that they cut off most of the human experience in depth and took the very tip of the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg being human physical experience, and applied all their attention, all their energies to that, and came to the conclusion that it is only the visible that is measurable. Therefore, measurable has to be visible. And if it is not visible, as God is not visible, belief is not visible, emotion is not visible, devotion is not visible, therefore all these are absolutely invalid to human society. And we are today suffering from the consequences of this kind of thought. Now, were they right in their attitude or not? When you come to India, ancient India, you find a system of thought which says, definitely, faith is a tremendous aspect of the human understanding, but reason is also equally good, or reason also has to be applied in religious field also. Now, this use of reason in the religious field is what is called Vedanta. Vedanta is a system of thought which has not only not discouraged belief, it encourages man to ask as many questions as are possible, so that you can be absolutely sure that you are understanding at every step before you take this system of thought and apply it to your daily life and practice it. So what is this Vedanta? Vedanta is a very ancient system of thought found in books called the Vedas. These come down to us. We do not know how many years back they were written, or who the writers were, or who the authors were. We are told that the knowledge contained in these books is eternal, therefore it is not historical. It doesn't have to be historical because it appeals to every human mind in the present tense also. I am a human being, and these ideas apply to me as a human being today as they did thousands of years ago. Therefore, it is not necessary for me to find out whether historically there was a man who wrote these ideas or who discovered these ideas. These are laws of the inner workings of the human person, and therefore what I have to see is whether they apply to me or not. And if I find that they apply to me on my own inspection, on my own reasoning power, then I have no way of denying their validity to the human depth. So what are these ideas? These ideas say that just as there is human experience which gives you the physical world, human experience is also capable of giving you something that becomes more and more invisible as you go deeper and deeper. And if this truth has to be understood in scientific terms, you can apply it to the physical world also. Even in the physical world, the scientist, when he wants to understand the heart of reality, material reality, he is coming more and more to the invisible. Everything in the universe, when you push it deep enough, seems to become invisible, and it is my understanding which has to become subtle enough to understand what the connection is between the invisible and the visible. So they say, behind the visible is the invisible, whether you apply it to the outer world or whether you apply it to the inner world. The inner world, the human being in depth, is accepted as a matter of course. It is not something controversial. It is not something for which I have to ask for proofs. Each one of us knows that when I look at myself from within, I know that I am real, and yet when the other person sees me, that other person sees only the external form. They see only my body, but I know myself very intimately as somebody who thinks, who has emotions, who has opinions, ideas, and they may be invisible to other people, but they are not invisible, inaudible to myself. I play with images within my own mind. These images on which my whole personality is based, my memories, they are very real to me. As a matter of fact, these memories make my life. If I were to say that memory is just an image, immeasurable, nobody can measure it in terms of mathematics, and therefore it is not at all real, it would sound absolutely strange to me, because that is my personality. And without this inner personality, how can I make the outer facade more and more real? And the problem of the modern world is, because the others throw this outer image at me, I am trying to, in a very contradictory way, self-contradictory way, I am trying to make the outer more and more real, and it just does not happen. And as adults, when we do understand that the outer can never be made more and more real, actually it becomes less and less real. Real and beautiful, which seem to interchange the ideas, because it does not remain young, because it does not retain its beauty and freshness, so we tend to think, I am somehow becoming less and less real. I appeal to you to understand these ideas in depth. Old age comes, which is very natural to the body, and because I have been given this idea that the visible is more real than the invisible, I try to draw attention to the visible, which is actually invisible to me unless I go and stand in the mirror the whole day. It is impossible for any human being to take the visible part of oneself to be more real. I am more intimately connected with my emotions, with my thoughts, with my feelings, with my opinions, with my memories. That is what makes my reality. But the world does not understand it. The world does not give it value because it cannot be measured, because it cannot be measured in terms of money, which is becoming a huge problem. Am I to be measured in terms of mathematical units of currency so that I can become more and more real? And again you will see that in this so-called modern scientific age, we are trying to do this to ourselves also. What is my value? How much do I fetch in the market? What is my value? How much physical beauty do I have? How much is my value? What can I show in terms of productivity? But what am I in myself? Have I any intrinsic value or not? This question, have I any intrinsic value? Am I real in my depth without having to show a certificate or not, is the main subject matter of the psychology of Vedanta. And Vedanta has come to the conclusion, after a long research and the practice that they give in these ancient books, that man, each human being, each creature has an intrinsic value which is so immeasurable that it can never be exhausted by the physical beauty, by the skill that a human being may have, by the money that that person may be sold for in the market, or by the productivity that can be there. Whether the body is young or old or diseased, or whether it dies even, the intrinsic value of this inner core does not increase and does not decrease, because it is the only reality. Now this is the main idea of the science of Vedanta. Now to say that you have to prove it, supposing anyone says, as they say in the scientific age, prove it, that this intrinsic value is really real, that you are something that does not die, that is not born, that cannot be sold, cannot be bought in the market. How to make this idea real in my life? How to practice this idea in my life has been the burden of these ancient books in India for the last 5,000 years. They give methods. What are these methods? The method is what this other part of the topic is today, turning attention inwards. They say, for thousands of years, you have turned your attention outside. Searching for what? I am searching for some kind of a response, intelligent response. I am searching for somebody to admire me for being myself. I am searching for love. I am searching for affection. I am searching for happiness. I am searching for all these invisible things. Why don't I search for objects? Apparently, it seems, of course, I search only for objects. But a little thinking, a little common sense shows I do not search for objects. I am searching for something that is very invisible. in the form of consciousness. I want response. Response is possible only from a conscious universe. An unconscious material universe, a material reality, cannot give me conscious response. Look at this contradiction of today. We are supposed to be living in a very material and in a very real world. These are the two words that go together. If it is material, it's very real. But we don't seem to understand it can be material, but it cannot be real. For the simple reason that the material does not give me any response. Do I look for response, or am I looking for the gadget? Am I looking for the music in the gadget, or am I looking for the gadget itself? And it's so clear that what we are looking for is the invisible, is the subtle that seems to flow from the object. It is not the object that draws my attention, it is something invisible that draws my attention, because for a long time I seem to believe, and every education, every society, parents, everybody seems to tell me it is out there. And therefore I run after objects, I shift my attention from object to object, looking for this happiness, looking for this God. In ancient times it was called God, and today we can say, well, since religious language is unacceptable, let us go to some deeper language. What would be that deeper language? I am searching for a sense of fulfillment. So would you say that asking for a sense of fulfillment is unscientific? If I say it is unscientific, then we say human life is utterly useless. If I say that human beings do not look for a sense of fulfillment, that they are not looking to this outer world for a sense of response, intelligent response, then I am not talking real human language. Therefore, we have to understand that the emphasis on the material world has shifted our attention in a very strange way. I am still looking for the core of reality, and that core of reality is the sense of fulfillment, peace, happiness, and peace, happiness cannot be measured in mathematical terms. There are no equations which can tell me happiness is equal to a gadget. Happiness is equal to a motor car. It is not possible. I know that we do look for these qualities by possessing these things, but if it had been possible to equate happiness with a motor car, after getting a motor car, I would have become absolutely peaceful. My mind would not have shifted. Why does it shift? Because what I am looking for is invisible, and it cannot be equated even if I get the kingdom of the whole of this universe. I am looking for the subtle, and the subtle cannot be found in the material, which may be as real as possible from one point of view. It becomes unreal and immaterial from another point of view. So the science of Vedanta says, to begin with, you don't have to prove to anyone that you are real. Everyone knows I am real. I don't have to go to a laboratory, or I don't have to listen even to a lecture to find out whether I am real or not. But I can start having doubts, and that is the problem today. I can start having doubts because all the emphasis has shifted from the human conscious center to the unconscious material universe, and I need to change it. I need to change it back, and I have to tell myself, well, science deals only with part of my experience, but I myself am the proof that there is something deeply real within myself. I don't have to read books to feel this reality. Then the next question is, why don't I feel it all the time? Why can't I be sure, absolutely sure, that I don't need anyone else's opinion or admiration to support this idea that I am real? Science of Vedanta says, because we have externalized our attention to such an extent that we have been fooled by the externalization of our attention. Our attention has become full of material objects. It seems almost impossible to turn this attention backwards to myself and find the truth of awareness not in connection with objects but disconnected from objects. This is something very subtle in this psychology. It says, the more attention you pay to the outer world of material objects, the more your awareness is going to become full of dead weight. And this dead weight seems to tell me that awareness is not real, but the material object that is given to me in this awareness somehow is more real. And therefore, I need to separate awareness from the object of awareness. And this is the root method that is given in this psychology. How to separate awareness from the object of awareness. And for that they give various practices. The basic practice has become very popular in the West today through the words yoga and meditation. What is yoga and what is meditation? They say the word yoga means being united. Right now, I am united to. What am I united to? I am united to this physical world because simply I believe it is real. It's only reality. Therefore, my awareness gives me only physical reality. It gives me nothing else. And I have to disengage myself from this terrible bondage which my attention has given me to be absolutely real. I need to disengage my awareness from the physical part of this awareness. And doing that through meditation. How do I meditate? There are millions of objects in my awareness, and I am dividing my attention to these millions of objects, or I am shifting from object to object. Early in the morning I start my life, and maybe in 24 hours or 12 hours I have shifted attention to thousands and thousands of thoughts, emotions, objects, memories, referring back and forth, back and forth. It's like traveling on the highway. There seems to be no stillness. And if there is no stillness, how do I disengage my attention from what is given to me in attention? So meditation was the method discovered by these ancient people as applicable to each one of us. Again, I don't have to read a book to understand that my mind is always in a state of flux. And if I want some kind of fulfillment, I need to disengage myself from so much activity and become a little still. What is it that we say? At the end of the day, if I am tired, I say, I want to be peaceful. I want to relax. What is the meaning of these terms? Wanting to relax or wanting to be peaceful means I want to be disengaged from paying so much attention to the external world. So they say again, if you understand it, it is scientific. It's absolutely scientific. Where is my laboratory? Within myself. Where are the ingredients of this laboratory, the chemicals of this laboratory? My own experiences. I don't have to go and ask anyone, what are the experiences that I am going to have, because they are known to me directly. So if being scientific means having a laboratory, every human being is born with a laboratory. If being scientific means that you must have some ingredients for observation, my daily experience is my chemical. And if it means that I must understand what this experience is trying to give me, I have the power of attention to turn back to these experiences, separate them into superfluous experiences and core experiences. Though I know, and we all know, that I need to get a little more training if I have to separate my experiences by calling them physical experiences, mental experiences, and core experiences. What would be the qualification of a core experience? A core experience would give me peace, a sense of fulfillment. What would be a material experience? A material experience would give me the object, but I would know by my own discrimination that a material world can only give me utility, it cannot give me happiness. I would understand myself, because I would understand the difference between the material level, which can only provide me physical satisfaction, and the mental level or the subtle level which I am really looking for. As a human being, I have become more mental than physical. We somehow do not seem to realize that in the human body, my mind is prominent and the body can never take that place again. It is the animal who is totally identified with the body. It is a human being who has become more mental than physical. And here I live in an age which stresses the physical to such an extent that I am in a state of constant doubt whether I can claim my right to be more mental than physical. We are all struggling with this. Can I proclaim to the world that I am more mental? And please don't push me towards the physical reality more and more, because I have already exhausted it at the animal level. And I believe personally that is the problem. I have this tremendous attention, power of attention, and the world around seems to tell me you have to pay it only to the physical level. And my mind says, well, the physical level can give me only limited amount of utility or satisfaction. After that, what should I do with my attention? And in ancient times, it was religion that used to claim that power of attention. In this age today, everyone seems to say, that is not valid. That's not valid any longer, and so I do not know where to turn my attention to. And it is time I realized that every search of mine is scientific. I am trying to understand. I am trying to decipher. I am trying to measure in my own way. But the measures of the physical world do not apply to the mental world. It's only this much common sense that I need to have. That when I come to the subtle, I cannot use the physical weights. It's not possible. Therefore, the language of the subtle has to be a different language. The measure of the subtle has to be a different kind of measure. How would I get it? My own trained attention will give it to me. How do I train attention? First through understanding, and then through practice. What kind of practice? This Vedanta, science of Vedanta has said, your attention right now has become totally confused by the physical variety. You need to bring it back to a focal point by giving it one or two images, because right now it is being dissipated, it is being divided by so much separation of physical objects. And I need to bring it back, I need to focus it, I need to make it like a laser beam. How does it become a laser beam? By paying less attention to the physical separation of objects and more attention to a level which is very near to me. An image, take one image as they say. There are two methods they say. One method is, out of the multiplicity of this physical world, select one image and focus your attention on that. Your attention will turn back to yourself, because it is attention that flows out of me that gives me any experience. So bring it back. They say this is one method which was given by ancient religions. Focus your attention on God, focus on some image, focus it on some symbol, focus it on some idea, some mantra. The word mantra has become very popular. I can focus attention on a sound, I can focus attention on an image. Vision and sound. These are the two senses which predominate in the human system. So take help of these and turn your attention back. When I turn my attention back, what happens? I become more and more of a unit. I do not feel so separated and so divided as I feel at the physical level. And when I feel united, I get the proof of these ideas that the sense of fulfillment is real. I can get it. It is possible, because I, as a human being, am really more of fulfillment. I arise from a level of fulfillment. I have become divided, and the more I go inwards, I get this peace, I get this happiness, and I get this joy of being united with myself. And they say there is a level when you can turn all your attention inwards and become totally illumined, and that is the level when this search is ended. Until then, practice is what we have to do. You are welcome to ask any questions.
Vedanta means the end of Vedas. Right?
Yes.
So what is Veda?
Veda is knowledge. The literal meaning of the word Veda is knowledge, but it's a very mixed kind of knowledge in the main book. There are certain books at the end of every Veda which deal only with this portion of the study of human beings in depth, those are called Upanishads, and the system of thought based on Upanishads is called Vedanta.
Where does this knowledge come?
I tried to say in the beginning that we do not know historically which age it belongs to. We do not know who were the people who wrote these books or who gave it as the oral tradition. It is so ancient that there is no historical record.
Thinking from point of view of history, but like, is it supposed to come from within us, or is it existing within us, or is it existing outside us?
Well, all knowledge, if you understand that all knowledge comes from human understanding, there is no knowledge standing outside anywhere. All knowledge is the discovery of human understanding. Therefore, it is all within, it cannot be outside.
How we can carry out these meditations throughout our life today? Is this just something we do in the morning and evening, or should we focus all the time?
Well, the science of Vedanta says that all your experiences can be tapped. You can turn your attention to whichever activity you are doing in such a way that instead of being more and more divided, they can lead you back to a sense of unity and fulfillment. But since we have become externalized, it's a very difficult training, and we need training for some time. Therefore, there has to be a separate set time for doing it intensely, which is meditation, but the method has to be applied to all human activity.
If you do your work with full concentration, whatever you are doing, how do you distinguish that of considering that different from your meditation through your concentration with a sound or light or any object, whatever you described in the last 10 minutes?
Basically, there is absolutely no difference, but the difference arises when we initiate activity from the superficial levels of our personality. There are activities that can rise from the core of our being, and there are activities that can arise from the superficial levels. If they arise from the superficial levels, then the reward is always limited, and it does not lead to that sense of reality and fulfillment. Therefore, meditation is supposed to be practiced.
How do you distinguish these two class of tasks?
By the results. There is an activity that brings on more and more dullness, or more and more restlessness, or more and more ambition and more desire, and there are activities that give us tremendous sense of peace, tremendous sense of inwardness, tremendous sense of fulfillment.
Is there any way to quantify whether what I am, I'm trying to achieve through meditation, whether I'm the right track or not?
I did say by the results, and that is quantification. What more? If you're asking whether they can be measured, I do not know. The subtle has to be measured in subtle ways. The physical can be measured in physical ways. So if you think that I and my inner being should become so physical that it has to be measured in mathematical language, then I can only say that it does not happen.
Well, let me rephrase my question. I'm practicing meditation, let's say. And how do I know after, say, a few months whether I'm really achieving any success in that, in controlling my mind?
Well, if I do not understand in myself whether I am in control of my mind or not, There is no outward way of understanding. My thoughts arise in my system, they are known only to myself, and I alone can decide whether they are driven from an involuntary source or I am thinking them voluntarily. There is no outer way of deciding.
Thank you.
Yes?
There is in reality no separation between the physical and the spiritual. This is a man construct, the
Yes.
consciousness of separate states of being.
Yes. That is what Vedanta says. If you go deep enough, they try and explain that since all human experience arises within consciousness, consciousness is the base, and all different experiences are experiences of levels of consciousness.
Hi. My question is, what is the role of and how important is the role of a teacher in such situations as to develop, I want to gain greater consciousness. What is the role of having a teacher and how important is it and how does it help?
Well, if he or she is a good teacher, the role cannot be minimized. The importance of the role cannot be minimized if you can get hold of a real good teacher. Just as a teacher in any field would be a tremendous help, depending on what kind of a teacher he or she is, in this also, if you happen to have a teacher who is compassionate, who really likes to teach, and who has knowledge of the subject, it's immeasurable help.
Thank you.
In one of the questions, a gentleman made the allusion to complete concentration in his work. He said, if I have complete concentration in my work, it is my experience that I've never had complete concentration in anything. And it is also my understanding beyond my experience that complete concentration results in merging, and I'm gone.
Thank you.
So,
it is true. Complete concentration is not possible as long as my consciousness is divided at different levels, physical, mental. As long as consciousness has division, it is not possible to pay complete attention to anything, and therefore the result is always limited.
So I guess my question is, why do I have to suffer with this duality? How long the
Why?
suffering?
Well, Vedanta gives very strange answers. One answer is that I like to play. We all like to play. Look within yourself. We are playing a game. It's a very deep game. We have lost track of when we started. We have lost the knowledge of the processes also, through which I arrive at the level where I am just now. But these processes can be recovered, and this beginning can be reached once again. And the moment you reach that level where you know this is the way it is initiated, the whole thing vanishes, and then you have to ask, was it there to begin with? So these are the two answers given by Vedantic psychology. One is that you retrace all your travel in space and time, which has brought you to the position you are at right now. Another is that when you do retrace and you come to the beginning of space and time and you have full concentration, the whole game vanishes, and then you are asking, was it real to begin with? And they give a beautiful example by saying, you see a snake in a rope and you go searching for the snake, and then finally you bring light and realize that there was no snake to begin with because it was the rope.
Native American spirituality teaches teaches that the purpose of all life experience is to learn, to grow, and there can never be an end to that.
Yes.
So there is no way to achieve a perfect harmony or nirvana.
Well, it is true to some extent. Vedanta also says the same thing. As long as the mind exists, separation exists, there is no end. But they say that there is a stage where the individual consciousness becomes one with the universal and everything dissolves, and that is the end. That is called nirvana.
Vivekaprana, does science really tell us that what its knowledge is the knowledge, or is it that our senses so much like the kind of knowledge that science deals with that we simply jump in and say science tells us?
Well, the ordinary human mind doesn't really want to go very deep. So when we find somebody, and especially in this age, when the scientist seems to corroborate the idea that the material reality is the ultimate reality, we jump to that because through their discoveries and inventions, they have made human life very comfortable. So we like to believe that the scientist has only given us this. Actually, if you go to the original works of all the pure scientists, they are actually not telling us that the physical reality is the only reality. But somehow, this is what gets to the ordinary mind, and the rest is completely lost. Whereas a man like Einstein would never say that the physical reality that I am trying to give you some knowledge about is the ultimate end of human knowledge. But the lesson taken by the ordinary mind is that because we refuse to think independently, and we refuse to take the whole lesson, that the scientist is actually searching for truth, is not searching for the gadget, but the gadget becomes supreme because it helps us to become comfortable and creates actually tremendous discomfort, but we don't seem to be able to form the link. That's a problem. So it is both ways. One is that I don't like to think deeply, therefore I don't really understand what the material sciences are giving me, because they are today giving us very deep truths, that the visible vanishes into the invisible, and the invisible is somehow more real than the visible. Otherwise they won't speak of energy being so mysterious that sometimes it acts as a wave and sometimes as a particle. So they seem to tell us that there is a mystery. But the common mind likes to believe that all mystery has vanished. And then we find ourselves in terrible trouble because we are trying to live with this philosophy and it is no way possible.
Vivekaprana, and announced that she will be giving one more talk in the Bay Area on Saturday afternoon at Cultural Integration Fellowship in San Francisco at 4 p.m. All of you are welcome.
Thank you.
ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यम् भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्।